So welcome and thank you again for joining us for the fourth session of the My City Academy virtual series. My name is Maria Corral and I'll be hosting the series. I am the Community Integration Coordinator for the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. My City Academy is a program out of our office that promotes greater awareness and integration of immigrants and refugees for residents of Denver. We partner with community stakeholders and governmental agencies to develop and implement policies and practices and programs that influence various paths of immigrant integration. My City Academy provides that path to integration by creating a greater sense of community for our immigrant neighbors. I am really excited today to introduce our panel, but first, if you all would take a moment to introduce yourselves in the chat, please list your name, your organization, or your neighborhood if you're not associated with an organization, and briefly tell us what's your mother's maiden name. Whoa, wait, don't do that one, because before you type, did you think twice about that question before answering? If so, good. Because we're going to be talking about financial empowerment and protection today, and sharing your mother's maiden name can be used against you. So please think about those. Instead, why don't we share your favorite activity during COVID? And remember, it's never good to share that personal information. So before we start, I want to make sure to remind everybody about the census. We've been doing this every day when we start and every day when we end. It is so important to fill out the census. Make sure to please engage your friends, your neighbors, your family, and make sure that they've already done the census. Ask them, lead them to a computer, put them on the screen at my2020census.gov so that they can fill that out. It's so important for our funding. It's important for so many different things. So make sure to do that. Thank you so much. And if you have questions for the panelists, please make sure to enter them in the Q&A. I'll be sharing my screen to show you where that is. Like I said, today we have the Denver Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. We have Ran Ojeda, Brandon Gibson, and even the director of the office, Jay Salas, is joining us. And then we'll have questions. And remember that our parking lot session is on Thursday at noon, and it's actually September 11th. But, and then we'll be having session 4 next Monday, or session 5, health and wellness on Monday at noon. So in order to ask questions, we ask for the panelists, we ask that you include it in the question and answer icon here on your toolbar. Otherwise, use the chat just to communicate with each other and any kind of comments that you have. I'd like to introduce Jay Salas. He's a good friend of mine, and then also the director of the Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. We have Ron Ojeda, and then also their coworker, Brandon Gibson. Thank you so much for joining us, you all. And remember, if you just joined, the City of Denver has made a commitment to language justice. Today we have Russian and Spanish interpretation available. Please be sure to make sure to select one of those languages to start. Why don't one of you take it away? Jay, are you going to start us off?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I'll go ahead and start off. And so,
great.
Well, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Buenos dias, привет. So I can, greet people in at least the 3 languages that we have interpretations for. The Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection was established in 2016 by Mayor Michael B. Hancock. And I'll give you a little bit of a background. We actually, the City of Denver, really started financial empowerment in that journey in late 2012. We applied for a grant by the Bloomberg Philanthropies, really to integrate financial counseling, financial coaching into existing city services and nonprofit services to help amplify those outcomes. So for example, a lot of folks were saying that they were involved in programs, but yet they weren't able to address financial insecurity. So, everything from, having good credit scores, being able to have access to capital, banking, also, just enough money and income, and how to manage your income and manage your money in order to make ends meet and actually start building generational wealth and doing the things that folks want to do, especially as, they're entering this country for new residents, and also setting up a good pathway for their kids for economic mobility. So we started that program. We got a grant for $1.9 million over 3 years to open up. We opened up 6 financial empowerment centers across the city and county of Denver. Then during that time, we came up with our economic ecosystem, which I'll present a diagram to you of what that looks like. But really, we started to integrate financial empowerment services, so financial coaching services, into housing, affordable transportation, affordable childcare education, jobs, entrepreneurship, and also into health. And so during that time, from 2013, when we launched the first financial empowerment centers, we then in 2016 created actually an office. So back then it was just a program. And we really worked to improve residents' economic mobility, stabilizing families and individuals and small businesses. So this is the economic ecosystem, the 5 pillars I talked about just a moment ago. So we really help with stabilized housing, transportation, childcare education, jobs, entrepreneurship and training, and then also health. And within those buckets, like for example, with health, we also talk about access to healthy foods, making sure that people have access to healthy foods in their community, health insurance, all of those types of things, Medicare, Medicaid. We also work with stable housing. So we partner with a number of programs to help, especially now during COVID, with stabilized housing. And I know Brandon and Ron will talk a little bit about some of the city services, especially the ones that our office are getting ready to launch, to help address issues that families and small businesses are facing around, with COVID and loss of income and those types of things. And then also with transportation, we really try to find affordable solutions for people. Some people, looking at transit, living by public transportation. We also work to help change policy with our RTD and other public transportation to make sure that it's affordable for all residents. And then also the first and last mile connectivity, meaning that a lot of our neighborhoods, especially our neighborhoods of color, don't have good transportation. So between their house and public transportation, there's usually a mile of disconnectivity where it's very hard to get to that public transportation. So we work on those issues as well. And then for those folks who actually do need a vehicle, we also work on developing loans and access to capital and credit in order to purchase vehicles, that they might need for work or getting their kids to and from childcare or other things. And then, of course, with childcare and education, we partner now with Head Start. We have opened up our first financial empowerment centers within Head Start, and we also work to advocate for affordable childcare and after school. And we're also working with the Summer Youth Employment and Training Program to really provide some good opportunities for our kids during the summer. And then jobs, training, entrepreneurship. We really help to connect people with jobs, and not just getting people a job. We don't think that gauging our success off of the unemployment rate is the right measure. What we try to do is looking at how many people have livable wages in Denver. And so that's super important to us, is to help people to get into livable wage jobs so that they can support their families and thrive. And like I said, pass on generational wealth. So that's really the goal around jobs, training, and entrepreneurship, is really helping people to get into a training program, a job that has a career pathway that can get them to livable wages. And then just a little bit about our office. These are a little bit older numbers. So we've served close to 10,000 clients. We've helped reduce debt now close to $8 million. And that number keeps going up daily as our staff, our financial coaches, and our financial navigators continue to work with people. We help them to reduce their debt on a daily basis. Total savings is probably closer to $5 million. And then we've had excuse me, we also provide free tax services. And so I'll get into that a little bit on the next couple slides of all the services that we provide. But we've helped folks, more than 20,000 folks with free tax services, and help them get tax refunds of over $35 million. So these are our key programs and initiatives. So we have financial empowerment centers. And so at those centers, you can access free one-on-one financial coaching. It's all private. It's done by licensed and trained financial empowerment certified coaches. And all of your information is, your information is not shared. It's all private between you and the financial coach. They really help you to reduce debt, get into banking, and I can talk about some of the banking products in our Bank on Denver program, which is next on the list. So getting into banking, accessing banking. We also help you develop savings and, save for things like, education, maybe for yourself or your kids. Also, a vehicle, if that is in your goals. And then also, looking at how do you save for a home for home purchase, because purchasing a home, especially in the Colorado real estate market, is super important, is one key way that you can actually build wealth and build generational wealth and really stabilize your family through housing. And then the next program is Bank on Denver. So Bank on Denver is another program we have, and it really is a group of folks, including all of our mostly all the major financial institutions, a number of our smaller banks, local banks, and credit unions. And really what we've developed is one of our key features is the National Account Standards bank accounts. And basically those are bank accounts that charge zero to little money to open. We have no overdraft fees, so you can't really get in trouble with overdraft fees or any other kind of things. They're very safe, they're affordable, and they actually go through a national certification that we help to create. And so and then the other thing that we do is we're also creating, we've created a loan program for small businesses, and it's a loan program that goes down to a 550 credit score. We also provide financial coaching alongside and business coaching, and then also access to other types of credit. We are developing some other types of grant programs, loan programs that are an alternative to high interest or even predatory payday loans or high interest buy here, pay here car loans. And then we have the Consumer Financial Protection Division, and I won't go too much into the Consumer Financial Protection Division because I know Brandon and Ron will go deep into that, but basically that is our protection arm on frauds and scams and other predatory types of things that are out there. We also provide financial navigation services, and I won't go too deep into that because Brandon is our lead navigator and really can speak to financial navigation, but we really want to connect residents to all of the services that are out there, not just city services, but state, federal, and also our nonprofit partners. So Brandon and his team work with a pretty amazing toolbox of different types of programs that really address all areas of the ecosystem, all 5 of those pillars. Financial Empowerment Innovation Hub. So we have a hub within our office. So it's kind of our research and development hub. So for example, Head Start, which is a program that provides education for young children. 25% of their families were homeless, and so they came to us to say, how can we partner and come up with some innovative ideas to help address the homelessness issue with Head Start children. And so now we are opening up financial empowerment centers within Head Start to really work with the families to help lower that homelessness rate, and also financial insecurity and them not having enough resources in order to cover their household needs. So that's what the Innovation Hub does. We really are open to other programs and agencies to help develop strategies to help people and help enhance programs that are already in existence. And then we also lastly have our Regional Economic Mobility Network, and that's really a network of other mayors and city council people and nonprofits and government officials from the 7-county metro area, where we really look at a regional approach to help our residents, because many times some people may not are able to live and work in Denver or other cities, and so they might have to, live in Aurora but work in Denver, and so we work regionally to really provide these wraparound services no matter, kind of where you live.
Hey Jay, one of the questions that we have in the Q&A is, do the financial coaches have interpretation services for people whose preferred language is not English?
Absolutely. So that's an amazing question. We currently on our staff, we speak 5 different languages just with our staff alone. So we do have quite a vast array of language that we provide in-house. But if there's other languages that are needed outside of the 5 that we have in-house, we also will bring interpreters. So we want to make sure that language is not a barrier for anyone to receive these amazing services. Bank On is a program that we partner with. It's a city program, but it actually is its own nonprofit under the Colorado Nonprofit Development Center. But basically, it's made up of city staff and financial institutions, and even some of the banking regulators like the FDIC, and also the Department of Treasury and our Federal Reserve. And really, they help to develop affordable and safe banking accounts, and also loan programs to help meet all of the needs of our community, because many times the regular bank accounts and also the loan programs do not meet the needs of our residents. And even in some cultures that outside of the US that come in, there's things like interest and other types of things that are against some of their cultural norms. And so we really try to build programs that help to meet all of the needs, whether it be culturally, linguistically, or dealing with credit or other types of things. So we really are a resource for folks that may have not had access to the financial and banking institutions and programs for one reason or another. And so we help eliminate those barriers. Consumer financial protection, I think this is where I get to turn it over to my colleagues, Ron Ojeda and Brandon Gibson, to kind of talk about what we do in the areas of consumer financial protection.
Sure. Well, thank you. And consumer financial protection, our unit is one of only really maybe a couple of handfuls of units of this type in larger cities. This work was started at the end of 2016 to put this together with the approval of the mayor. We had support to start looking at the issues that were important to the residents of the city and county of Denver. We looked at the ways in which people could be taken advantage of and could be victimized by financial fraud. There were a lot of different issues that were out there that were important to our community, whether it was wage theft or student loans, being taken advantage of in student loans. We started off in our work actually with about 13 different issues. And we knew that if we tried to tackle 13 issues, well, we would just fail. It's just too many. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't making the decisions of what issues we were going to cover in a dark room, if you will. So part of the process in developing this new unit for the city and county of Denver was to reach out to government agencies and not-for-profits that were those outward agencies and organizations that actually work with our residents on a daily basis. And we put together a group of about 25 government agencies and 40 different not-for-profits that were involved in the process of determining the direction that this Consumer Financial Protection Initiative would take. So we started out with having convenings with those groups in the room to determine first off what were the 5 issues were that we were going to take on for as our mission. So we determined that they were going to be wage theft, elder financial abuse, fair housing practices, fair lending practices, and notarial fraud. And for those of you who don't know what notarial fraud is, it primarily affects Hispanic communities, but not just, but primarily. And what this is in, for example, Mexico, a notario is an actual thing. They're kind of a pseudo legal assistants, if you will. There are some attorneys that actually do this work. They help people to interact with the government for different services, whether it's a driver's license or or getting a new visa to go work in another country. And what these notarios do is well, actually, what happens here in the United States is that you'll see signs up for notarios here in different communities. Well, notarios don't exist in the United States. It's not a notary, but what they're doing is they're coming here and they're planting themselves in a Hispanic community, say, hey, we can do the same services of what you think we did over there in Mexico for you, but we're doing them here. But they can't. There is no license or certificate involved that makes a person notarial here. You have people that come in and say, well, we can help get you through the immigration process to get a work visa. Well, they can't. Anything it is that they're doing is something that people can do on their own, and what they're doing is they're charging for these services fraudulently. And so that's what notarial fraud is. Anyway, so then what we did is we took each of these issues and we broke out working groups, again, from that group of people in our coalition to determine where we were on these different issues and what work needed to be done. So we broke it out into multiple components: political will, education and outreach, policy and legislation that could help our residents, monitoring and enforcement. And we have a number of enforcement agencies that are part of our partnerships, such as the Department of Labor and Employment, Attorney General's Office, the District Attorney's Office, DPD, Denver Police Department, Auditor's Office, and Excise and Licensing, complaint resolution, and then supportive services. And this last one is where we believe we really kind of separate ourselves from a lot of the consumer financial protection work that's currently being done around the country. Because a lot of times what these agencies wind up being, if it even is an agency, is simply a referral service. Or maybe you even go to their website. You say, well, if you need help in this, call these numbers. Well, problem there is that a lot of times those numbers may not work anymore. Or the funds that were available to help you with rental and utility assistance, they may have run out of money by the end of, let's say, October or November. And we're sending people to a dead end. Well, the supportive services, the counseling, and the navigation make sure that we actually are sending them to a live number and they're getting resolution and help. But we'll get to that in a moment. If you could go ahead to the next slide. So in determining where we were falling short, we found that there was a lot of resources out there to help people, but there was a real lack of coordination between the different agencies. Some of our major agencies admitted it to themselves and to us that, we just can't help everybody. We only have a limited amount of resources. Sometimes when you call in a complaint to the district attorney's office, if that complaint didn't rise above the certain threshold of dollars within the certain complaint, if there weren't enough complaints against the same bad actor, and if they determined it wasn't an illegal act, they don't do anything with the complaint. But the other problem is that they don't let the complainant know that they're not going to do anything. So, we found these gaps, if you will, and we determined that we needed to create an administrative hub. And part of that administrative hub, a central component, was a complaint management system. This was a Salesforce-based system that we built. Now I'm going to let Brandon talk about that because we were very fortunate in that we've got almost $500,000 of contributed efforts from our IT department to put together this Salesforce-based complaint management system, but it was missing a lot of the components that were specific to what we needed. Brandon, if you'd like to kind of take it from here a little bit.
So I'm just going to give you everybody an idea of what it would look like if somebody were to submit or just come through our shop. So after this, we'll post our phone numbers and our contact information. So I'll give everybody an idea kind of what it would look like if somebody comes through our front door, virtually or otherwise. Denver's Consumer Financial Protection Unit will take complaints and help residents get assistance from the agencies they need to get resolution. We will also make connections to support that can help stabilize their home that has been impacted as the result of loss of income, for example, or just a loss of financial stability within the household. Again, our 5 areas of focus that Ron mentioned, we have wage theft, elder financial abuse, fair housing, fair lending, and notarial fraud. So although those are the specific issues for consumer financial protection, we also have our bank on services that were previously mentioned and our financial coaches as well. And we also offer navigation services, which I'll touch on here in a second. So if somebody comes in through our front door, we always create a case in our case management system. As Ron said, it is Salesforce based. So it is a great system to allow us to track everything from documentation to outcomes to navigation services. So it's and as Ron said, it's been a building process, but we're always trying to make improvements on it. So if somebody comes through the front door, they speak with our navigator. They can come through phone, online, or through one of our financial coaches. So we have a no wrong door policy. Once they connect with one of the navigators will review their particular complaint or navigation request. They will kind of triage the situation and determine what resolution would be best. Obviously, sometimes that might be multiple different resolutions. So there's where we kind of wrap in the navigation services. For example, if somebody who's been a victim of wage theft, our resolution would be to try to recover the lost wages, either through mediation or possible referral, for example, to the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. This is specifically for wage theft. But on top of that, we also want to plug them into assistance programs or navigate them through anything that might be able to help them through the hard time they're going through. Anytime somebody has, loss of wages or any type of financial hardship, it affects the whole household. So we not only want to resolve the apparent issue, but we want to try to help elevate the family so that in the future, they're in a more stable position going forward. So again, we offer the free financial coaching, banking services to get them plugged into the banking system, again, navigation of any city, state, and federal or nonprofit assistance programs. And as was said, it's not just a referral. We want to make sure that they have all the assistance that they need to apply. So if they need any help with any of the documentation or any of the applications, we're here to help them through that process, make sure it gets submitted. And then if they have any further questions or need any follow-up from the respective groups or agencies, we have direct connections to all those different partner agencies, and we can reach out and say, hey, what's going on with this? Is there anything else that they need to do to move this forward? So we feel like that's a really big piece of our supportive services is through our navigation. It's not just a referral. It's, it's advocacy and it's case management. And we take them all the way until, they're in a better place financially. So again, that kind of goes back to the resolution or referral. If we can resolve their issue in-house through our internal programs, that's perfect.
Brandon, one question that I have for you. So the Bank on Denver and some of the financial coaching, is it open to people who may not have documentation?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Great question. Yeah, we, again, no wrong doors. We don't ask those kind of, questions unless it specifically pertains to trying to get folks plugged into different assistance programs that it might become pertinent. But beyond that, absolutely. Everybody's welcome. And one of the big pieces at the very end is the ongoing support and complaint updates, which I did touch on a little bit. But we don't just want to make a referral. We really want to make sure that they have that ongoing support and that they get complaint updates. If they have, for example, if a wage theft complaint is referred to the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, we want to make sure that they get updates on the progress of their complaint. And so that is our main.
I'm going to take us back a little bit. So we've got this complaint management system. We take complaints when people are victims or believe they've been victims of financial fraud and any of these 5 issues. But let's talk a little bit about that, okay? So I can give you a little more color to the topics that we're talking about. We do not ask for social security numbers, citizenship status, immigration status. But what we do ask, we ask what's the solution that the resident is seeking. That is how we determine what our job is on a complaint. What is the resolution the resident is looking for? Has not, for example, in the case of wage theft, has not being paid caused other issues that the resident needs help with, rent, food, child care, as Brendan mentioned. Do they need legal assistance, which I'll get into also? Have they been threatened with retaliation? Also a big thing. Okay, now go to the next slide, please. So let's use wage theft to give you a sense of how many facets these issues can have. What is wage theft? Wage theft shows up in many different ways. whether it's paying less than the minimum wage, not paying for the amount of time worked. We get complaints all the time for people who are told to work these hours. They say they will get paid, you get their paycheck, it's not there. Issuing a paycheck that's not valid, that is financial fraud. Avoiding payment of overtime, making a worker pay for the job, unexpected deductions, stealing tips, not paying the worker at all. And here's one that we found out from the Department of Labor and Employment here in Colorado, is one it's one of the ones that really shows up a great deal. That's failing to issue a final check. So we'll have a lot of times when somebody will call us, or we'll meet somebody that says, you know, I quit my job, I haven't been paid for the last 2 weeks, and they're 3 months late in paying me. We will contact an employer and try to negotiate payment. We're not looking to cause arguments, cause issues. We're looking to bring resolution. Many times, these situations are brought about inadvertently. They just seem to happen. There's a lot of small business owners out there that they may not be the best at keeping their books. They may not be the best at running a business, but they're making enough money and they're paying their employees, right? So things do happen. Our view is that we want to bring resolution. We look at both sides of the issue. However, when we do see the residents are a victim of financial fraud, we are going to help them to bring resolution, whether it's referring to the Department of Labor and Employment, referring to the Attorney General's office, the District Attorney's office, or maybe referring to the Auditor's office because they weren't paid the minimum wage. So we believe that mediation can really play a big part in solving these issues without taking it too far, and also not making people wait a long time to get paid, because that's what it's really about. If people have not been paid their wages, we need to get them their money, right? So in the case, for example, of fair housing, with fair housing, we're coming into a time now when evictions are going to unfortunately play a large role in what is happening, especially in our at-risk populations. There has been an extension of an eviction moratorium on a federal level. Not a lot of people know exactly how that's all going to work or what the actual long-term impact is going to be. The fact is that, if you don't pay your rent through the end of the year, the moratorium does not excuse you from paying those months of rent at some point in time. So we believe that it's a problem that is going to affect a lot of people, a lot of households. It's estimated there could be as many as 180,000 households in the state of Colorado affected to one extent or another from eviction. We do have an eviction package we have put together that's going to be distributed citywide. That it'll be a 5-pager. I don't have it loaded at this time. We can bring it up if you want to, though. So we put together an eviction package, 5 pages, which is a description of the eviction process. It's a narrative. Then there's a visual timeline of exactly what's going to happen once that writ gets put on somebody's door. In other words, when is the sheriff coming, right? What are my options? What's going to happen to me and to my family? And then the third part is actual places that you can call for different assistance, whether it's rental assistance, utility assistance, maybe even medical assistance, but also legal assistance. We have a $38,000 pool of money that came from the CARES Act that we are going to be able to use for mediation for people who need help because they are getting evicted and they want somebody to sit down and formally mediate with their landlord because they are still going to owe this money and they have to work on a payment plan. We also have about $10,000 identified to help give some legal counsel to individuals who maybe need an hour of time with an attorney. So you could see this. So that's fair housing, an example of what we're doing there. And these other categories, they also have many different aspects to them. If you believe you've been a victim of financial fraud, but you're just not sure, we encourage you to call us.
So there's all of our contact info right there. So if anybody would like to jot that down, please feel free. Again, no wrong doors. So we've got our consumer protection unit line there, and email, and also our financial empowerment center and navigation services. You can check out our website at denvergov.org, Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. And either of these numbers will get you plugged into all of our services. We just have them separated out. So if you have something specific you want to call for.
I also just want to add one more thing. I know the question came up about, showing resident status or anything else. Many of our bank accounts as well also will work off of an I-10. And so we really have worked with our financial institutions to provide access to banking and credit and all of those types of things, and to access to loans and that type of thing. So we really are trying to work to make sure that the financial institutions are amenable and open and work for everybody.
I'd like to clarify something too in regard to navigation. So when we started the navigation program, it was something that was more consumer financial protection, if you will, because that's how the system was just kind of built based on what we were doing at Salesforce. However, when COVID-19 hit, it was apparent that we needed to expand our services. So we expanded our navigation that across the board for different topics and different issues that residents. So we see them as we see our navigation services as fully integrated with our Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection. It's not just for consumer financial protection. So if you have a specific consumer financial protection, you feel comfortable using the 720-913-1900 number, please do. However, the 720-944-2498 number is our general navigation services, our general financial empowerment center's number. Please, there is no wrong door, okay? Either number is fine.
So I know Jay placed in the chat that many of the bank accounts can be opened with an I-10 or the individual taxpayer ID number. What if somebody does not have an I-10? Do you maybe help them get one?
Absolutely. So our financial empowerment centers can help you get an I-10, including our free tax. So we also do free tax services. We provide free tax assistance for people to file their personal or business taxes. And at that point, we also can help them with an I-10.
I'm going to bring up the 2 eviction documents so I can share it with the group. Now,
Sure.
that the eviction documents, they are in the process of being translated into Spanish. Right now, we expect it any day. We are waiting for that Spanish translation before we distribute this citywide on our communications channels. But let me bring this up first real quickly here.
There's a question while you're doing that, maybe Jay or Brandon can answer this question. So how about when this came up when you were talking about wage theft and some other consumer protection issues. So like this question came up, how about when a telecom company charged a lot of money for a phone plan to a client that doesn't understand English well?
Yeah, so we offer mediation services, so we can try to put ourselves in the middle of the situation and try to mediate a resolution. The person, again, these type of things are a lot civil in a lot of these cases, so there's a limit to our scope, but we're happy to try to take on the case and help any way that we can. We are working on some policy and legislation for a UDAP, which is our unfair, deceptive, and abusive acts and practices. So if we can get that passed, then that type of activity would fall under that. So that's why we are working on that, because we do recognize that as a gap right now where folks are being taken advantage of. We've got a number of different cases that are similar to that. So yes, we're happy to try to mediate, and then in the future, we hope to have some enforcement power as well.
There's limits to what we can do now, but we are working on the policy end for that UDAP, and hopefully we already have a first draft created, and so there's a political process that we have to go through to get that passed, but I think we're pretty confident that we can get that passed and really provide more protections to our residents. But and also I think a lot of times folks, if they have questions before they sign anything or before they enter in some kind of contract or they receive a call or something in the mail or anything else, they're also free to call our office just to ask us because one thing that Brandon has done is we has created, and Ron, this consumer financial protection roundtable around frauds and scams, and so our office coordinates everyone from the Attorney General's office, the Department of Regulatory Agency, the Denver District Attorney's Office, the Denver Police Department, number of enforcement agencies that all work together and share information, all the frauds and scams. And so Brandon can look at that and give you a good idea whether or not it's a legitimate contract or something that you should be aware of and maybe not sign, or if someone's offering you some kind of deal that sounds too good to be true. You can call our office and we can kind of look at it and research to help find out if there's a potential for some kind of fraud or fraud there, so that you don't fall into that trap.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, I've got the eviction documents. Hopefully I do this right. And to share this first one here, and that is going to be this one. Okay, so this is the 5-pager. This is the page, the more complete document. It is, of course, going to be translated into Spanish, and it looks like we're looking at 3 other languages. I believe we may have settled on French, Burmese, and Vietnamese as the other languages. Those will be translated, over a short period of time. But the first section is 3 sections. The first section is a narrative on what eviction is and how it works. Eviction generally, the eviction procedure, and then repeated or substantial violations of a lease. Different things that could create an eviction process being initiated. You'll see at the top here, and when tenant tips, the first thing we do here is we have people call the Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection if you think you are having issues, okay? Even for landlords too, by the way. Remember, we're two-sided on this. We have to be, okay? And we have committed to being that first place you call. Now, this doesn't ensure that everybody's going to call us. People may still know, I'm going to call DHS. Oh, I heard about the TRUA program, so I'm going to call host. They may, but we have to have some form of consistent messaging. So that is why we have committed to be that source to take a complaint and help people get to the right place for that help and make sure that their case, that they don't need anything else rather. So that the first part is that the narrative. The second part is a visual timeline, which actually shows what happens once that writ is on your door, right? This is the big thing people ask for. Oh my God, this is put on my door. When is the sheriff coming? All right, it's the biggest question that's asked because there's so much uncertainty that they could be thrown into without getting some kind of a sense of how long this thing can take, right? And the third part is the resources. And you can see, once again, Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection is their first number. You can see it's the 9442498 number. DHS and host, obviously, the courts. You see LEAP, Colorado Legal Services, Colorado Affordable Legal Services. And by the way, this is the small legal aid firm of attorneys that are going to help us in providing, we're talking to them this afternoon in regard to them providing those legal consultations, if you will. Now we have some funds to pay for. Okay, I can go on and on here. You can see the different departments mentioned, NEST, DRCOG, and then a link to state resources. This document is going to live at host on their website. However, host and we will have access to them to keep them up to date, changes, additions over time. It is a living document. Now the other piece is a 2-page piece. The reason we have a 2-page piece is because there are a lot of people that are, especially in our at-risk populations, who do not have access to technology. They don't have a computer, they don't have a cell phone. So this was created for that purpose. It's not the 5-pager, it is 1 page, 2 sides. It is a call to action on how to handle an eviction notice. And once again, the 9442498 number, Office of Financial Empowerment and Protection, the Consumer Financial Protection Unit. We have Denver Human Services and host. And then on the other side is the visual timeline. Again, these will be are going to be translated into other languages, and we printed this piece, or it's going to be distributed in black and white, so that not-for-profit organizations aren't spending a lot of money on ink to print these things up, so they can have as many as they need as low cost as possible. And then the reason, again, we have this 2-pager is because right from the very beginning, it was the sheriff's office that said, we need a piece that we can hand out. Same as the courts. So it's going to be government agencies and not-for-profits that will use the 2-pager in addition to having the broader 5-page document.
You're on just a time check. We got about 6-7 minutes left, and I know we might want to open it up to some questions here, so I throw that out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. So one of the questions that I have, this is an amazing piece to be sharing with the community on evictions, but what about those homeowners that are experiencing maybe job loss or other financial hardships? Is there a type of document like that maybe is helping people with foreclosure processes?
Okay, we don't have one covering another specific area, just a comprehensive document like that. I'm thinking about working for one on foreclosures though, because a lot of the resources are the same. We have been talking to the Office of the Clerk and Recorder, Paul Lopez's office, in regard to putting together resources for foreclosures. So we have resources for foreclosures, right? But we don't have an actual printed package as of yet.
And I think what we have is, the 5, when we talk about the 5 pillars, and if you're struggling in any of those areas, you can call our office. The thing about putting out a document that the resources, especially with COVID, change almost on a daily basis, week to week basis. So, if people are struggling and usually it's not just one of those areas. If they're struggling with their rent, sometimes they're struggling with food or lights and gas. When you call our navigation services, you're really opened up to this toolbox that really has all of the city services, all of the nonprofit services, and state and federal services that are and resources that are available now. So we really keep in contact and really have this group of city resources that we continue to check on week to week. And if there's a new program or new services that are put out there, or new policies that's changed, we update that on a weekly basis. So we're kind of a one-stop shop that can help you get to any of the services that are out there. So if you have questions and you're struggling in a certain area or areas like housing or food or energy assistance or childcare, call us, and then Brandon and his team can look at all of the services that you're eligible for and maybe not enrolled in. We'll help you get enrolled in those services and resources. And we're going to have a bunch of resources available directly through our office, such as, folks that are experiencing, that had a loss of income or increased expenses due to COVID. There's grants up to $1,500 that we'll be having in our office that will also provide financial coaching alongside of that. And there's also some business supports if you're a small business that has had increased expenses or loss of income. There's grants that we'll be doing up to $10,000. We do it in cohorts because we're also providing business and financial coaching.
Great, thank you so much. We do have a couple questions here in the Q&A. Is there anything we need to know in terms of how your office is working during COVID, all by phone, or is it by Zoom? Including the financial, including maybe the financial coaches and.
Great question. So initially, the financial coaches were all out at our different financial empowerment centers out in the community. They did also do virtual and phone as well. But now that COVID is upon us, they have gone completely virtual. So they'll do Zoom meetings and they also do phone. As far as consumer protection and navigation, it's all through the phone lines. So please feel free to reach out. But as of right now, there's no in-person meetings with any of our services, unless a resident has a specific need and is incapable of doing any type of virtual. We will make some accommodations as necessary, though.
Okay, great. And then the second question that we have on here, and I don't know if there's a specific grant, so maybe I think can you talk about the grant for people who have debt and who can get this grant?
Yeah, I can cover that one. So it's the Personal Access to Capital program. So it's designed to help folks out who are stuck in predatory installment loans. So things like payday loans, small installment loans, the types of predatory loans you can get online really quickly. Within 5 minutes, they'll give you a loan, but it's got, 500% interest. So these are all kind of predatory small installment loans that exist. Yeah, they're out there. They go as high as 800, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, we've seen it. So folks who are, in payday loans or these type of loans, we have a $1,500 grant that helps folks pay off their payday loan. But also part of the program is getting them into our financial coaching program so that we can stabilize their family. They can learn how to handle their finances so that going forward, hopefully they won't have to take out another type of installment loan like that in the future.
Great.
Would anybody else like to elaborate on that?
That sounds right. Yeah, I think you covered it. Yeah. Call us. That's the number one thing. If you have one of these predatory loans, call us.
This webinar series is all about sharing information and making sure that everyone is connected to the city of Denver, the services, the benefits that we have, and utilizing them. We all pay these taxes, and these are services for you.